Oh, welcome to the retro shed, or actually welcome to the boot of my car. So I've just been to pick up this lot from a chap who lives not far from me, who's got a lot of old retro stuff in his brother's house. What we've got here is what looks like Acorn A3000. We've got what looks like Atari 2600 Junior and some other odds and sods. I'm not sure what's in there, but the box says it's a Sinclair Spectrum Plus. Nice. And we've got a Commodore Amiga 1200 and a Commodore 1541 floppy disk drive. And last but not least, a copy of Treasure Island Dizzy. So let's get this lot in the house and see exactly what we've got here. Here's the A3000 in the kitchen. Now, I never used one of these, ever. I think they started to come into the schools just as I was actually leaving school, so I've never had a play with one. So what I'm going to do with this one is take it down the shed, and before I power it up, I'm going to have a good look at the main board and see what state it's in, because these are renowned for having a battery leak. They've got one of those nasty Vartas in them, I think. So they suffer from battery leak, and chances are that that thing has leaked all over the board and caused some damage. So we'll take a look at that one in a moment. We've got a Commodore 1541 box. Now I don't know what's in the box. I'm hoping it's a 1541 floppy disk. So let's open it and see what's in there. 1541 floppy drive by the looks of it. Looks in lovely condition. Let's get that wrapper off and have a closer look at it. Yeah, there you go, 1541 floppy drive, complete with its transit cardboard. We've got the original manual that came with it that looks in very good condition. Demo floppy disk. And there you go, there's the original warranty card that came with it. And just so happens that lying next to this is a copy of Treasure Island Dizzy for the Commodore 64. Wow. So I'm going to be hooking this up in a bit and seeing exactly whether this still works. Sinclair Spectrum Plus computer outfit. What the hell a computer outfit is, I don't know. So we have a polystyrene box, and in here, lovely ZX Spectrum Plus. Look at that. Complete with power supply. Power supply, Kempston interface, and a user companion cassette. Lovely. Interestingly, on the back of this Sinclair Spectrum Plus is a sticker from Venture TV Sales and Service, Broad Street, Bromsgrove. Does anyone know who these people were? I've never ever heard of them. I bet this is going back a bit, probably before I lived in the area. So it looks like we had a shop called Venture TV in Bromsgrove that looked after TV, computers and video. Right, we've got a bag with some odds and sods in. I can see a Commodore joystick in there, I think. Let's open the bag and see what's in there. Alright, we've got one of those horrible Commodore joysticks that hurt your hands. And we've got an interface here which I've never heard of, called a tripler. Does anyone know what that is? It's got a DIN socket on it, it's got a DIN plug on it, and what looks like a Centronics port coming out the back of it. What on earth was one of those? So, according to this piece of paper that I found, a tripler is a serial to Centronics converter. Centronics. Yeah, so it's an adapter converter which does not use any program memory space. The function of the tripler interface is to convert the standard Commodore printer format to a standard Centronics signal. Oh, okay. So it's basically a Commodore Centronics interface. What else have we got here? We got an Atari 2600 Junior console and a Skull tap head. Oh, eh? That's a bit random, isn't it? So we've got this Skull, what looks like a bar tap surround or whatever you call them. I don't know what they're called. That's a really random thing to find in a box of retro computing gear. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. But anyway, here's an Atari 2600. What's in the box? Strangely enough, turn it around. Strangely enough, we've got an Atari 2600 Junior console. What else? And some wires and the usual paraphernalia you'd expect to find with that. Wonderful. There you go, one Atari 2600 console. One Donkey Kong cartridge for the Atari. Must have a look at that. I don't think I've ever played Donkey Kong on the 2600. Commodore Amiga 1200, no hard drive. Wow, that is what I call yellow. That's a seriously yellow Amiga. In there I've found a boxed copy of Putty. Not sure whether I've played that before. We've also got a service report that dates back to 1993 when the 1200 was released, I think, wasn't it? And it's from Dixon's. So it looks like this receipt is for install and deliver. And it was issued on the 24th of June 1993 by Dixon's. The lighting is not brilliant in here, but if you look, that polystyrene is white, and that's how yellowed this poor Amiga 1200 has become. And the keys as well, that's some serious yellowing on there. External floppy drive, which is always useful. Workbench 3, power supply, and what looks like a mouse. But yeah, before I power any of this stuff up, which is worryingly, the seal has already been broken on this one, so somebody's had a delve around in here. So I'll check this out carefully. I think I'll open it up and see what condition it's in before we power any of this gear up. So not a bad morning's pickup, I don't think, there. Right, down to the shed. Okay, we're down the shed, so let's do some quick wins first and test this gear. I'll quickly power up the 2600 with Donkey Kong and see if that's working first. Yeah, we got a red light, so let's do some tuning in. So here we have one working Atari 2600, happy about that. Joystick's a bit knackered, I think, but the console itself is working. And I think this is what passes for Donkey Kong on the 2600. This isn't too bad, it's not the best version I've seen. I've got to admit though, that is the strangest looking Donkey Kong I've ever seen. So on the box of this Atari 2600 it says it's new. Now, I often wonder why people do that. Why did the designers of these boxes think that we should put this as new? Because it's not new now, is it? 30 odd years later, it certainly isn't new. But you know what, I suppose when the Junior was released it was new, and it was a new design, like that Atari logo, that's very funky. So yeah, it would have been new, but it's not anymore, as you can see from the state of the box. Okay, right, next I thought we'd take a look at this Specky. Let's get this Specky powered up and see whether it still lives. Yeah. What am I going to do with this? Any ideas what I can do with this? Shall I bin it, or shall I power it up and have it on in the background as some kind of weird retro? I don't know. What am I going to do with it? Let's power this up, shall we? So, incredibly enough, we have a working Spectrum, and the keys are a bit sticky, I think, as you'd expect. So I shall probably need to swap the membrane out on this. But I'm going to load Bubble Bobble and see if she still wants to play. You know what? I love the design of this computer. I think Rick Dickinson and his team did a wonderful, wonderful job on it. It is, I don't know, there's something about it. It's so iconic. It's just so 80s, and I love it. Load up a bit of Bubble Bobble and see if he wants to play. Yeah, so it's come back to life again now, but the keyboard is, yeah, keyboard's knackered, I think. That doesn't surprise me. Every Spectrum I've ever had has needed a new membrane, so I'm pressing J for load, and oh, there you go. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I've just found in the box a repaired docket. What is a docket? For Venture Television. And Looks like this machine was repaired on the 9th of June 1988. Dear God, I remember what I was doing in 1988. I was probably ripping around the neighbourhood on my BMX. We're talking Spectrum 48K plus, and the repair was replaced 2 transistors and replaced RAM chips. Possible cause, interface pulled out, plugged in when on. Was that possible cause? Interface pulled out, plugged in when on. Ooh, that's not going to be good. And the bill came to £28.30. God, 1988. I was 16. I was 16 years old when this was fixed. This one I'm quite excited about. This is the Commodore 1541 disk drive for the Commodore 64. Now, what amazes me about this drive is the size of it. It is enormous. I mean, it's about the size of a Commodore 64 itself. If you look at them side by side, it's a beast of a drive. So I've got a bunch of 5 1/4 discs lying around here, and this is, what's this? The Bard's Tale 2. So let's give that a try and see if it works. Sounds like it's doing something. Well, that's doing something. So we have a working 1541 now to add to our Commodore 64 collection, which I'm chuffed to bits about because I've got the screen, I've got the Commodore 64, actually I've got 2 of them, and now we've got the 1541, which was a really pricey bit of kit back in its day. Okay, up next is something that I know very little about. It's an Acorn. It's an Acorn A3000 series machine, and it does look very nice indeed. So I've never used one, absolutely never had one of these to use at school. I think they came in just after I left school. So having a look around it, there's a disc here in the drive. Games. I've no idea how long that's been in the drive at all. Never powered one up. I'm not going to power this up until I've had a poke around inside, because I've been told that these have one of those nasty Vata batteries in them. I'm going to pop the lid open on this and see what condition it's in and see if it's got one of those nasty batteries that's leaked all over it, so I really don't want to power it up until I've had a look inside. So let's pop the lid off and see what we've got. Right, lid off. Doesn't look too bad. Fair bit of dust on the keyboard. Nothing a quick clean up won't solve. And a lot of dust on the main board here, which will need a bit of cleaning and taking care of. Right, so let's lift the keyboard. What I'm going to do, I'm going to detach the keyboard and just take the keyboard out of the way so we can get to that battery. The battery has not leaked. I don't think it has anyway. It looks pretty clean. So I think what I will do, I will remove this battery before it starts to leak, because they are like an absolute time bomb, these little canisters are. And if that leaks, it's going to cause no end of damage to this board. So I'm just going to take that off before I power anything up and give this a good clean. Right, that's cleaned up quite nicely now. So what I'm going to do is put it all back together again. I'm going to leave that for the time being, and I know a lot of you are screaming, no, it's got to go. Yeah, I will take it out, but it shows no sign of leaking at the moment. I just want to power this thing up and see whether it works at all. So I've cleaned the main board up, given the keyboard a bit of a freshen up, so it's time to put it back together again. Right, so sadly it looks like our A3000 is dead. I've put it back together again. If I power it up, so when you power it up you get a brief glimpse of something. There you go. And then that's it, it's dead. So caps lock doesn't respond, caps lock light's on, num lock and what looks like power, but nothing else. I've had a quick whiz around the board. I can't see anything obvious, so I suspect we've probably got some dead RAM or dead CPU or something else has happened to it. One for the project pile, I think. I'll measure voltages in various places and make sure that we've got the right voltage where we expect to see it. But I think, unfortunately, this one's going to be assigned to the project pile. Amiga 1200. Now, this is really, really yellow. It's got a horrible, horrible colour. You can see roughly, I think, what colour it's supposed to be, but it's got a really yucky colour. So is the power supply. Horrible. I don't know what plastic Commodore used on their Amigas, but the 1200 seems to be really bad at this. Horrible. So come next summer when we've got some decent bright sunlight, I'm going to have to take this and do some retro brighting on it. But for now, I'm going to pop the lid off it because I believe there's something tasty in the trapdoor underneath. Amiga 1200 taken apart. It looks quite clean inside there. I don't think it's been messed around with. There is no hard drive. But what I did find in there is a Blizzard 1220/4. I believe this is a 4 meg RAM upgrade, and it's got a real-time clock on it as well, which doesn't appear to have leaked or caused any problems. So bonus. Right, I'm going to put it back together again and see if this thing will fire up. So interestingly, on the first boot I got nothing at all. I just got a blank screen. It's booting now because I have taken out the memory expansion card. So I'm just going to clean the contacts up on this because the edge connector had a bit of corrosion on it. So I'm going to give that a bit of a clean. So we know the Amiga's working because I've got a boot screen there. So I'm going to clean this card up and see if that makes any difference. So what I've done, I've got some isopropyl alcohol and I've carefully cleaned out the slot there. What I'm going to do now is just clean the edge connector underneath the Amiga and make sure that's all very clean and ready to plug back in. So this connector here was showing some signs of corrosion on the other side of the connector. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a bit of this stuff, which I use for a lot of edge connector and board cleanup. It's isopropyl alcohol. You can get that stuff anywhere really. And cotton bud. I'm just going to clean up that connector and put the expansion card back in. There you go. So dirty edge connector on that memory expansion looks like it was causing the problem. So let's chuck in a disc. So we've got an Atari 2600 that works fine, we've got a Spectrum Plus that needs a new keyboard membrane, we've got an Acorn A3000 that's dead on arrival. I need to have a look at that. We've got a disk drive for a Commodore 64, which is really good, I like that, and an Amiga 1200 that's working, which is always a bonus because you can't beat a working Amiga. So we'll be bringing you a video next week of what we get up to in Bury over the weekend. We're going to Arcade Club on the 19th, on Saturday the 19th, so really looking forward to that. So we'll do some filming and bring you a video the week after more than likely. So thank you very much for watching, take care now, we'll see you again soon, bye bye.